Welcome to Tell This Story, the podcast where we bring you the real, raw conversations about resilience, growth, and purpose after the life of service. I'm your host, Doug White, a veteran, retired first responder, and author of Hiding in Plain Sight, the truth about trauma, service, and the way forward. On this podcast, we focus more than just on origin stories and the challenges of service. We explore how veterans, first responders, and their families move forward and thrive. Through honest and thought-provoking discussions, we highlight resilience, perseverance, post-traumatic growth, and the opportunities that can be found in life's next chapter. This episode and this show is proudly brought to you by Polestar Coffee, fueling the brave with the finest of blends. Find them at polestarcoffee.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star rating. Every review helps us spread the message. Today, I'm honored to welcome Lena Grunloh. Lena is a certified and multi-state licensed physician assistant with a passion for advancing mental health care. Since earning her Doctor of Medical Science degree in 2023, she has worked in the neuropsychology sector. She has been pioneering ETMS therapy to support veterans, first responders, and substance use disorder clinics. Lena's work blends cutting-edge insights from EEG feedback and each patient's psychiatric history, enabling transformative care. Her dedication extends beyond her clinical practice. She also serves as an adjunct professor at Butler University and advocates for innovative, whole-body approaches to mental health. Today, Lena is going to share her journey into medicine, the groundbreaking role of ETMS therapy, and how EEG feedback is revolutionizing care for those who serve it. Lena, welcome to Tell This Story. Lena, welcome to Tell This Story. How are you doing today?
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. This has been a long time coming. I should probably explain to, anybody who's followed me for at least the last 2 months knows that I was lucky enough to come down here to ETMS, Florida, when you opened up your clinic here, and was not really sure what TMS was. Still not absolutely sure what it was, even though I went through the 20-day protocol. And I met you. You were the person who put together the treatment plan and all that other stuff. And just very excited to have you on here today. I've been asked lots of questions with the videos that I was putting out daily after my treatments. And so just wanted to bring you on so you can clarify all of the things that I said to confuse quite a lot of people. So just tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into medicine, and how did you transfer into neuropsychology? What's this all about? What's Lena's story?
Oh, well, I initially went into medicine, honestly, because my mom had cancer. Most of my family had cancer, pretty sick most of my early childhood. And I really got to see firsthand how much of a difference it made, just depending on how the clinician was in person, their bedside manners, just connecting with the patient, how much better it ended up coming out for my family in particular. And my mom ended up being super healthy and great. And it was kind of maybe a subliminal way for me to give back. Plus, I just am a nerd and I really like science. It just always made sense to me. OChem is like a dream for me. Biology could learn for days. So it kind of just fit naturally. I was really unsure on what track I wanted to do. PA, MD. I did athletic training in undergrad at Indiana State to get patient contact hours regardless. I know I needed it. Kind of got connected with a lot of cool people in the orthopedic world. That's what led me to Indianapolis. Had a short stint with the Colts doing things for the combine at the time. I fell in love with Butler University, did PA school there, and then subsequently fell in love with Indianapolis, got roped into a family medicine job that I really, really loved. Decided I just had too much free time and needed to go back. So I went to get my doctorate of medical science in 2021, I think. My brother actually is also a PA, and we are just a touch competitive. So when I decided I was getting my DMS, he had to go back too. So we actually got to graduate together at the same time, and they let us walk across the stage together as siblings. It was a really cool experience. And then I super love family medicine. It was such a great field for me to kind of see a lot of many different pathologies and really connect with a lot of people. At the time, I just felt like I really wanted to do something where I had a little bit more time with each patient and get to kind of connect with individuals on a little bit deeper level. It was just getting really busy. Some of the demands of family medicine can get pretty tough. And it was just time for something new. So I had a close friend approach me about TMS. And look, I get it. Transcranial magnetic stimulation sounds made up. Anytime you talk about the brain, it can elicit a little bit of fear. So I definitely myself had this moment of like, what the heck is this? Have been doing this now for over a year. I absolutely love it. I have the best job in the world. I'm so sorry to every other clinician who isn't me because I have the best one. And it's been an incredible way to do exactly what I set out to do when I wanted to leave family medicine. I get to connect with people. I get to see little glimpses of their life. I get to help in a whole different way. And I have the most time with my patients. And for that, I really thank my company. I know that was probably more than you wanted about me, but
Nope,
there you
that's
go.
exactly what I expected from the first time that we met when we went over my initial EEG to target my treatment plan. You actually apologized a couple of times for being a complete nerd about it, and I wanted to put you at ease. I said, no, I know nothing about this, and the fact that somebody is going to charge my brain with a magnet, that scares me. You're right. It's like that. You're going to rewire my brain. How does this work? And like you said, it sounds made up, but to see you so excited about it and passionate about what you're doing, first to see that in a medical professional, hey, that makes your patient feel at ease. And the fact that you believed in it so much was like, okay, this is going to be a good thing. I'm not afraid of it, and I'm told it's not going to hurt. So I like seeing the nerd thing. So when they came to you and said ETMS, your nerd brain was like, tell me. And it was probably just one of those one-time throughs. You're like, okay, that checks out. That makes sense. Cool. Let's do this. Or did you have to, go back and retrain and really dive? I mean, I'm sure you dove into it just because your nerd sense went into overdrive, but where you're like, can you run through that again? Or did you just get it?
Well, okay. The honest truth is, so I kind of know this is all born out of Ohio, at least ETMS is. TMS itself is not, it's been around for decades. I have a close friend whose family is in business and politics. They have also neurology friends, turns out, on the coast in California. They knew this treatment existed, knew the demand and the need for help for veterans, military, general psychiatric deficits in those populations, as well as we do some work with substance use disorder clinics. And so he was like, why are we not using this? Why is it not accessible? The truth is TMS is not, it's not new technology. It's not new treatment at all. It's just really stinking expensive, and it hasn't been accessible or affordable to people. Traditional insurances just haven't picked it up quite yet, but that we're changing that landscape too, which is exciting for the general population. But yeah, I'm at my friend's wedding, and it's my friend's dad who is the CEO and who did all of this. And I'm kind of talking about how, I'm super proud. I just got my DMS, my Doctor of Medical Science. Family medicine's kind of, really weighing on me lately. I'm not sure this is direction anymore. And he approached me and said, hey, don't leave medicine altogether. I've got something for you. And I'm like, would you mind your business? Like, I'm trying to have fun at this wedding. And then he just kept reaching out to me. And then I started to learn more about it. I had a neurologist at the family medicine clinic I was working at. She's just in-house. And so it was really easy to consult with her on a lot of things. So I kind of came to her about it, and I said, hey, can you give me some more insight, just like as a fellow clinician and friend standpoint? And she was like, oh, this is cool. And like kind of walked me through it a little bit. Then that opened my eyes a little bit more. I did my own research. And then when I accepted the job, they do a pretty intensive multi-week course for clinicians that you have to pass. You have to take a practice exam, the whole nine. And then they kind of do continuing education for not only just your general boards, but for the TMS and neuropsych piece. So yeah, it was a lot of information that followed. And I appreciate and welcome like questions and even skepticism from patients and other people wanting to know about it, because I sat in that same boat. And to me, that tells me you're actually really considering what you're doing. I mean, it's a smart person's thing to ask questions, consider all the details, and see how it maps out for you. So I'm excited to help answer any of the questions and make it make more sense.
Yeah, when I was being asked about it and I was actually doing my videos, I think you probably saw some of the videos. It was very, very broad brush. I stuck with the non-invasive. It's painless. It works.
Yeah.
The stuff, the way it was explained to me, your brain's going to be on a treadmill at a full sprint for 15 minutes. Get a snack. So I loved the snacks. In fact, I started stocking them at my house. But
Yeah. The Fig Newton bars, me too. They got me
yeah,
hooked.
I told the guys, like, I'm going to come back for the fig bars and the coffee because that's really where it was at,
Yeah.
honestly.
The
Uh,
raspberry ones. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. Thought it was
Mm-hmm.
just me.
Mm-mm.
So, um, how did this translate into working with the veterans and first responders? Was this what the company was doing, and that's just kind of you jumped in, and that's how you got introduced to those, I guess, community?
Yeah, that wasn't any of my doing at all, but it's been so fun to get to work with those communities. I truthfully, I mean, of course, in family medicine, you see every kind of individual, but it's been really eye opening and a really fun experience to work really closely with mostly veterans, military, first responders. I did not grow up having any first responders or military in my family. I was honestly not ready to hear a lot of the stories that are pretty common practice and just like the general kind of ways of thinking and the things that society, from what I understand, just teaches you to learn about how to manage things, the concept of mental health in itself, what that can mean and
Mm-hmm.
weigh to a person. That was the relationship of TMS for first responders vets was built already by the time I got there. The state of Ohio really said, hey, we've got a problem. Like, our VAs are overloaded. We're seeing insane numbers of depression, suicide, post-traumatic stress disorders, sequelae of, and we got to do something because at the end of the day, it's costing the state tax dollars. And so if there's therapies out there that may be better than what just common practice we've been doing for decades already in traditional medicine, we need to look into it. So it was a pretty easy bridge to tie in from what I understand for that whole landscape by the time I got here.
That's good. Well, it's funny because I wanted to go back and actually I should ask this question again when we get to the explain EEGs to me. But when you first saw my EEG and we first met, you're like, okay, so I'm looking at this and these are the waves and these are the peaks and you've been hit in the head. Like, how did you know that? Because when you said that, I was like, oh, okay, this is science. Because I didn't say anything. This is not horoscope. This isn't guessing. So, yeah, it's kind of funny. So, a deep dive into, well, first of all, electro transcranial magnetic stimulation is ETMS. What's the difference between that and TMS? Is it really the same thing?
So, yeah, good question. There are several different types of TMS. There's your standard TMS that's more kind of a one size fits all. There's PTMS that really fits for most like pain and neuropathy syndromes. There's RTMS. ETMS stands for like EEG guided TMS therapies.
Okay.
So
Okay.
essentially, all TMS really does is help kind of rhythm retrain a neuron. Every individual has about 90 billion neurons in their noggin. And, of course, plus or minus. And they all kind of have a little beat on how they communicate together. Your neurons signal what's happening with the world around you, what you want to do about it, and how you feel about it. They're constantly going. If they're not going, we're brain dead. We have a new problem. That's a flat line on an EEG. And yeah, we got to do something else. But the neurons they create like a heartbeat almost. It's like a beat or a rhythm in your head. Just like your heart, how everyone in normal sinus, just chilling here right now, it's anywhere from 60 to 100 beats a minute, generally for most. We all have kind of our sweet spot, right? So you can't, it would be the same as if you went in to get like a ablation or a cardioversion and they just had like a preset heartbeat that they put everyone on. It's not going to fit. It's not going to work. We all have our own biological ticker that we like. And so ETMS really tries to find every person's biological sweet spot in a specific frequency of those brain waves to then identify what we really need to train. That way it's not one size fits all. Plus, it's more adaptable too as we keep going on. After we do so many sessions, we'll get another EEG. Maybe we've learned a thing or two now. Maybe we're doing better, and we need to kind of move our benchmark.
Okay. So I know it's guided by EEGs, but I probably should back up a little bit before I confuse myself even more here. So the overall goal of this is to optimize or to optimize the brain waves and help neuroplasticity. I remember you saying that word, and I've heard it other places before, and I could be completely wrong in the terminology and the order that I use that in, but why is neuroplasticity important? And does this help that?
So the concept of neuroplasticity is a big one. It's just this general idea that your brain evolves. You're not born with a brain and that's all we got for the rest of time. Obviously you have a growing stage where, your developmental state of both the electricity, the plumbing, the general mechanics of your brain are still developing. Neuroplasticity in itself really does mean that your brain is trainable. Things are repairable. Where maybe a connection was not so great at one time, we can kind of repair that connection. In the realm of TMS, we have to be careful how we say neuroplasticity, because we're not creating any sort of new, like, this is not the plumbing of the brain. This is the electricity of the brain. This is
Okay.
not like the actual tissue of the brain. It's just the pulse. And so in those ways, we do see kind of like an awakening of the brain in ways, but we're not creating new brain tissue. We're not adjusting any sort of other mechanics of somebody's brain.
Okay. And I think that's probably where a lot of the concern would come from if somebody says, we're going to rewire your brain or help your brain waves. Like, oh my God, wait a second. Is this going to make me do this? Is it going to make me a better singer? Am I going to be able to dream better or whatever? I'm glad we were able to clear that up and bring a little bit of clarification to that. So ETMS, the way that it's done, it's targeted for the individual person. The protocols that we went through here at ETMS Florida, they were for me. The pulses that I received from the magnet on my forehead and all that other stuff, which by the way was painless. It was actually soothing towards the end of it.
We hear that often, yeah.
And it's weird because it's like, this doesn't feel like it's going to be soothing at all, but it was.
Yeah.
So in using this, what is it that we're trying to do with the brain waves? Why is this important to first responders and veterans?
Yeah, these are fun questions. Okay. So I think that we're all a little bit more woke now about the brain and the concept. I think it's an overused term, but PTSD. And I don't mean that in just the setting of military veterans, et cetera. I mean it in like, your brain does do things to protect you. And I think we've learned a lot more about that societally too. So I think that's going to help a lot more with what I'm about to say. But so these 90 billion neurons that I've been talking about, they are cells just like anything else. So you go walk out of your house right now, you clip the stair and you trip and fall and sprain your ankle. Those cells of your ankle are going to swell up, get ticked off, and you're not going to be able to walk normally for a while. They're going to be slow. The cells of your neurons are cells, the neuron itself is the same too. The problem with the brain is that not only is it just physical injury, but it's an array of injury that can cause slowing and injury to the neuron. So for instance, chemical injury, like if you're around caustic agents, if you have to do a lot of energy drinks to stay up at night, everybody on the service is doing nicotine, so why not? It's going to help you keep up with Tom, Dick, and Harry. And then anything else you might come into contact with, plus sound injury, so sirens, blasts, gunshots, explosives, etc. Sleep injury, so if you're not giving your cells, the neurons themselves, time to rest and repair at night, you got a whole new set of ticked off, upset, injured neurons there. But really to traumatic exposure. Not even necessarily something that has to emotionally upset you at the time, but being consistently exposed to things that are traditionally unsafe or just unsavory to most people. If you witness, abuse, violence, threats, perceived harms that maybe haven't happened, your brain has a very hard time understanding what's happening to it versus to something else or to the world around you. And it will actually slow down those neurons as if they were hurt. Of course, too, I didn't say the obvious physical injury too. So you go get a concussion, we can see signs of neuronal slowing on that concussion, of course. So that's why a neuron is kind of special, because you can upset them pretty easily from a lot of different things. It's a smart thing, it's adaptability, it's a protective mechanism, but it's really hard to kind of regenerate and repair that natural rhythm of the neurons and how they all work together once you've ticked them off. So you can see pretty clearly why this is a service available for free to vets, first responders, and service personnel. It's not normal to live a whole life exposed to almost every single injury I've said on a daily basis,
Yeah.
and then just go to Applebee's with the fam and act like everything's fine and go do your thing. So I hope that answered your question.
No, it didn't. The only reason I chuckled is because you said Applebee's, and they offer a free meal on Veterans Day, and it's a memeable thing because only vets go to Applebee's. It's kind of funny. It's a whole thing in the veteran community about Applebee's and getting your free meal and all that stuff. But
hey,
so,
I love Applebee's. I'm in it. But
with the EEGs, on I got the day 1, the day 10, and the 20 day. And the day 1 was to set the baseline.
mm-hmm.
Again, this is my understanding, so please correct me and add some sense to this, but that was the baseline and to direct the protocol for my therapy. And then we wanted to make sure at day 10, when I had that EEG done, and again, it was done in the same office, lights out, eyes closed, and at ease state, even though having to deal with Tampa traffic, I was still able to maintain. But that was to make sure that we were on target to adjust the protocol as needed and to make sure that I was making the gains that we expected me to make. And then the day 20, which was obviously to get the final outcome to make sure that we were there and if there was any fine tuning. But the thing that I did not mention in any of the videos that I did, and of course not here today, was I was giving the battery of tests, the manual dexterity, the visuals, all this other stuff. And then of course going through the PQ, the whatever all of those forms were. And it looked like a standard battery of, to get a baseline of the PTS questionnaires that we would fill out in the VA or any other psychologist's office, just to get baselines. And I know that when I was in there, and I would have to go way back and probably call the clinic to find out what my numbers were, or you probably have them in front of you, but they weren't good on the first day. And the day 10, they were much better. And on day 20, they were remarkable from what I recall. I know, even though the results and looking at the graph were still, it was clear that there was a change. And for me to quantify that by looking at the graphs, other than, the arcs are lower where they're supposed to be lower, they're skinnier and peakier. And again, medical terms. I'm actually a lot smarter than what I'm coming off now, but anecdotally speaking, I know that the changes that I was supposed to feel in sleep quality, anxiety, depression, irritability, all of those things from the baseline, I started experiencing a reduction in every one of those things, an increase in the quality of my sleep, and then a reduction in all the other symptoms within probably the first 2 to 3 treatments. And, I was warned to make sure that I get my snack before I leave, because again, your brain is like 2% of your body weight, but uses 30% of your body's energy, something like that.
Crushed it. Yeah. 30%
Oh, look at that.
Oxygen and glucose. Nice.
Cool. And guess what? I have a notepad in front of me. No notes on it. I remember that.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm somewhat of a doctor myself. No, not even close. Saying get that or you're going to take a nap. And I was like, yeah, whatever. So I didn't get my chewy snack when I left. And I got to tell you, I always had my appointments at 8 a.m. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, I was out like a light. I laid in my bed, and I'm not against taking naps. In fact, I highly encourage nap taking, but I was face down in my bed. I did not move for 2.5 hours, and I had deep, childlike. I mean, I was in REM. I woke up at 6:30, and the only reason I woke up is because there was a puddle of cold drool on my pillowcase that my face was in. And I chuckled kind of like that. I was like, oh my God, they were right. So I never left without my snack, but I went back to sleep that night at 9:30 or 10 o'clock like I normally would. And again, childlike, vivid dreams. One of the things that I mentioned to you, and I don't even know that it's one of the things that it treats, but I suffered horribly from headaches and migraines. And, there are theories whether it was TBI, which I dismiss because it was a questionnaire. But then the other was untreated or likely undertreated sleep apnea, which I knew that I had. But when I started sleeping better, almost immediately, no more headaches. I have not experienced a headache basically since like November 3rd. And, I attribute it all to the ETMS treatment. So I don't know what the science says. I haven't really done a deep dive in any of that stuff. Of course, not on the level that the practitioners are doing, but anecdotally speaking, I can say absolutely it works. So what is the efficacy of the ETMS versus other traditional things like the evidence-based therapies, the talk therapy, EMDR, and all of this other stuff? And I'm not asking anybody to disparage any of these things because I understand that there are millions of people who find value in all of these things. And for each one of those people, a combination of any of these things can work. But with ETMS, without an ETMS in conjunction with these evidence-based therapies, what kind of success rates are we looking at versus just, well, I don't even want to say gutting it out because gutting it out maybe 1 or 2% versus whatever, but with the combination of and just the evidence-based therapies, talk therapies alone, what are we seeing as far as successes there?
Well, I mean, you can obviously see just in hearing your story, I hear this mostly all the time. So you can see why I do have the best job in the world. I can tell you from just like my experience standpoint, after 5 years in medicine, I mean, 25% of the things we see in medicine are psych related in primary care. And I've never seen anything help individuals out as much as TMS has, with especially considering TMS's minimal side effect profile. I don't have to worry if I'm going to make you gain 20 pounds or make you lethargic or kill your kidney function or hurt your libido or something. And I don't need to worry about weaning you off at a certain point or how that medicine or whatever therapy it might be could play into the rest of whatever you're doing or taking. So TMS actually is same level FDA approved for an array of treatments. So the efficacy is kind of, all of the white papers are there. You can go and look at everything online. It's FDA approved for smoking cessation, for insomnia, for PTSD, for developmental delay, ADHD. We are pretty close to getting an FDA approval for migraines and chronic tension type headaches. And so I can't talk on like the actual specificity, sensitivity, like actual percentage efficacy. But I can tell you from a clinician flat out, I've never seen anything like it. And the thing is, it isn't for everyone. Like I've had, that 1 or 2% of my patients that just come through it and they're like, I don't know, like I didn't really notice it, but I can tell you it didn't hurt them. And I never heard it wasn't worth my time. Because it is a time commitment. I mean, it's 20 treatments, 15 minutes roughly each time. We ask you a crap ton of questions, the scales that you're asking about, EEGs, the whole lot. So you touched on a few things too in your last discussion too. The scales that we use, they're traditionally used for diagnostics for psychiatric disorders, insomnia, PTSD, depression, generalized anxiety disorder. We are not diagnosing anyone at all. It just helps us kind of keep track of a patient as they go through. We're talking about a lot of very subjective things. How do you feel? How are you focused? What's your sleep like? What's your outlook on life? Those are hard things for us to get objective data on. So anytime we can put numbers to it, it tends to not only be helpful for us, but really powerful for the patient as well. Because you're the only one living in your world every single day. It's hard to truly get a before and after comparison on how you're actually feeling. So that's kind of the reason we do that. And EEGs in themselves too, I do want to just make it really clear that they only are diagnostic for seizures, period. That's the only time us clinicians can ever look at anything definitively and say, XYZ about a patient. The rest of it is just generalized inferences. So yeah, you did have, especially for yours, not to draw you under the bus there, Doug, but you did have pretty good evidence just from low voltage that you knocked your head around a few times. But I couldn't have like definitively said that.
I used to be much more handsome. Yeah.
Just that's fine. There are just little signs, but the point is we don't like make any absolute diagnoses of anyone about their health landscape on an EEG. They're just really cool to help us learn a lot about people. In medicine we've got tests for almost everything now. I mean, you can give your blood away to some like commercial gene like profile company and find out what you're going to die of in 2078, but when it comes to like mood and emotion and focus and sleep, we don't have a lot of tangible things to draw, data from on people. And so that's why I think EEGs are super interesting.
I like that. And I want to go back to, because I think this all ties in when you talked about the scales. I've seen the scales before, going through the scales, and it's all very subjective. And anybody listening to this, you're either going to be the family member of a first responder or veteran or one yourself. And we can all relate to this, that I'm not going to answer these questions honestly. Well, I shouldn't say that. We're less likely to answer these questions honestly. We are most likely going to minimize a lot of the stuff that we have with suicide rates in the veteran community and in the first responder community. A lot of organizations, a lot of states don't report those numbers. They don't capture them. A lot of those things are overlooked because of one-off accidents or single car crashes where somebody's died. So getting a grip on any of this stuff quantitatively is going to be difficult. And I think what helps with the way ETMS is set up, or at least through the program here in Florida, and I know that the overall ETMS Ohio and the branch of everything that the JLC service is doing, it's not something that's reported to our insurance companies. It's not reported to the Veterans Administration. It's not reported to our employing agencies. It's not reported anywhere. It is in-house only to drive treatment. And I think that knowing that, like me, when I first went to go get help, I went to the VA for two reasons. One, it was not associated in any way, shape, or form to my employing organization. I wanted them to know nothing about what was going on inside my head or in my life, because I was afraid of the stigma and what was going to occur if somebody found out. And also I went to the VA because I was told that they were the subject matter experts in PTSD and TBI and all of these things. So going into ETMS here at the Tampa clinic, I knew that it was not going to be reported. One, I'm retired, so it doesn't matter, but I knew that I could go in there because I knew this information was going to be used to help me. And I knew that whether these are subjective or not, that I can answer them honestly because, well, the people here are interested in helping me. They've told me the success stories and anecdotally, the things that they've experienced working in the clinics with Ronnie and some of the stories he told me, and his own story, which is his story to tell. But they were so inspiring to me that I realized right then and there that if I don't answer these honestly, they can't treat me effectively or as effectively as they could if I did this. So the self-reporting, you're never going to get a full picture, but I'm glad that this is done in the way that it is through the program that y'all put out, because people could go in there and be safe. So
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, no, it was great. So going back to the EEGs, what is it specifically that we're looking at with these waves? What are the waves? What do they do? And what is the end goal with these mysterious waves? These fat peaks and skinny peaks and all the stuff we're looking at on EEG.
So the specific EEG report you get, it's not looking at just a hard data EEG, because that would actually send us all into a panic. That's pretty tough data to look at. So for patient and provider purposes, we kind of make it into what we call a neuroref report. Now, this we pair with a company called Wave Neuro out of California. They've been doing TMS self-pay for several decades with insane results. And I honestly love them. Every provider there is amazing. And our CMO is out of that group. So those reports are made from Wave Neuro. What they show is this essentially, the concentration of where your neurons are. So I talked about how your brain has different gears to meet demands, just like your heart does. It's got a rhythm in itself. When you go to sleep at night, your heart goes into bradycardia. When you're exercising, your heart goes into tachycardia to meet demands. When you're chilling, it's in normal sinus. The brain has similar gears to meet demands. You have 4 main human brain waves, 2 of which are generally present during sleep states, and 2 of which are generally present during awake and alert states. Now, I've already told you that with injury, we see neuronal slowing. So you kind of get this concentration of neurons in different buckets, even if you're awake and alert. And that's kind of where we see some discord happen clinically for people. There's one particular frequency called alpha. It's your first awake and alert rhythm. It's really energy efficient. Like you said, the brain is a metabolic, selfish nightmare. It's got to be on purpose. But if you can ride an alpha where it uses not a whole lot of energy, but you get a lot of bang for your buck, humans tend to do really well. You can stay focused and alert in alpha for longer. We also just find, especially over the last several decades, alpha has been a big topic of interest. Humans tend to do well in alpha. We like alpha. You feel more in control of your emotions, more alert and aware of your surroundings, kind of more in tune with your body. There's even studies where you can kind of be more in tune with your bodily emotions, and like elite athletes have higher concentrations of alpha activity when they do their sport. Just kind of this concept that you can be more, calm in your mind, aware of your surroundings, and doing what you need to do. So that's really what we care about, is seeing your alpha and that intrinsic rhythm. Everyone's got their own sweet spot in alpha that they like. And then we see where maybe some neurons have slipped off and are hanging out and not performing nicely with the rest of the team. And so over time, we like to see the sleepers at daytime states come back with the rest of the alpha gang. It's not that the sleepy states are bad. We want you to have all of your neurons in the sleepy states, in those slower phases, when you're trying to sleep. And then whenever you're awake and alert, let's have all those guys acting over there. This is why TMS is really helpful for sleep. It is a circadian rhythm, right? We know that term. The rhythm actually meaning let's cycle down at night, let's speed up in the day. But if you're thinking about all the stuff you did wrong 12 years ago and all the crap you have to do at work tomorrow and whatever the heck happened, that was really traumatic from the shift 6 months ago, you are not slowing your neurons down. Guess what? Those neurons are tired. They're going to need to take a break, whether you give it time or not. They're probably going to be slowing out, cashed out during daytime phases. So good luck being alert. Good luck being in check with your emotions. Good luck not being irritable at your 2 kids whenever they come home screaming. Like that's kind of the goal, is we just see where your concentration of neurons were in that 10-minute time frame that we got your EEG.
Okay, so and then the EEG is used to target those sleepers and just to bring them back with the rhythm of the magnet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You got it.
No, I don't, but okay. I still have some sleepers up there. By the way, I don't have slow brains anymore.
You had a really cool EEG, and your scales were nuts too. I know we've talked about the scales to death, you made a really cool point that there is a lot of underreporting. And that was one of the things I wasn't expecting when I joined this team, was how I did not expect to feel this amount of fear and hesitation in people just telling me how their life is going. And I did not understand that it wasn't always a healthy space to talk about these things. And so the scales, it's only you versus you. We're only getting serial scales. So maybe you may be a little hesitant to tell us how it is, but then your same hesitation is going to spill into the next scale and the next scale and the next scale. So it creates a better gradient. And you are right on what you said about Ronnie being so awesome for you. He's one of my favorites. I love, and I'm just flexing on TMS and JLC right now, but we do try to keep it. You will only run into people who have either experienced this firsthand or been involved in the program and it changed their lives so much that they wanted to do it themselves, or they have generally a family member in military or first response services and they've seen it help. There's no strings attached. This is government given money. We don't there You're not going to hurt any of our feelings at any point if it doesn't work. We just genuinely want to see everyone feel better. And unfortunately that is not always the case in every med landscape.
I will help you flex on that, because I was just amazed when I got the phone call and said, "Hey, we're opening tomorrow. Your patient one, can you make it?" And okay, so we're opening tomorrow. Okay, so it's a hard open, a soft open. I'm using restaurant terms, but I walk in there and there's literally screwdrivers on the floor where they're still putting desks together. Like, but seriously, good thing I brought my own coffee. I mean, I was literally the third car in the parking lot. And it was so cool, because I got to the building, because is this the place? I even called. I was like, hey, am I in the right place, man? This can't be it. There's an oak branch down in the side yard here. Is this like, yeah, bro, we literally got called an hour before calling you saying, turn on the lights. We open tomorrow. And that's how it happened. But
Hopefully there's at least a coffee pot in there or something.
Well, there is now, but bigger picture, this was brought to Florida, and such a blessing. And there are legislators and there are politicians that make things happen, and there are those that don't. And I'm not going to go on party line or anything else, but having this being funded by the state of Florida, and having what I know of are going to be 5, 6 clinics in Florida. Okay. Anyway, there's more than the one here in Tampa. I know there's going to be 2 in Tampa, from Jacksonville, Orlando, Miami, from what I was told. Anyway, that's the plan. And this is funded by the state of Florida for all veterans, military personnel, and first responders. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. And you're telling me that this is the greatest thing, but it's just been cost prohibitive for other people, and insurance companies aren't on this, but the state of Florida has gone headfirst into this and brought this wonderful company in to do this. And all of the people that I have met from ETMS, from this company, have been fantastic. They have been, they definitely carry the banner on how effective this is, and what they believe in, and the mission, and the mission of the company. And I met the CEO, and it was quite by accident. I got done, had my snack, and my mouth is full, and I was walking out, just chewing on my raspberry fig. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Good." Random guy eating lunch on a picnic table with a laptop. And, I start talking to him, and he's just like, so cool. I'm like, is this guy waiting for me to get done so he can do his therapy? Or, is he the building manager? And then I talking more and more, I'm like, oh my God, this is like the boss. This is the dude who brought it here.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so cool. And he's in there, helping put together desks and all of this stuff. So, when you got somebody that, and I've used this term quite a lot, I prefer missionaries, not mercenaries.
Yeah.
When you're doing this because it's the right thing to do and it's helping people, and that's your focus and your mission, I'm all about it. So the culture that I saw there, although a snapshot over the course of the month that I was doing this, the people that I've met, the people I'm dealing with, and if you are any indication of the medical professionals that have working there, this is a win. Even if the treatment itself was fantastic, the fact that you get all the bonuses with this, it's been a fantastic experience for me, and I know for others, it's making a difference as well. So, yeah, there was another thing I wanted to ask you, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
And just
sometimes I get monologuing and I forget.
No,
What's that?
Yeah, this is my first podcast. I feel like I'm just singing along, just saying every word I've ever known. Yeah, but
just having a conversation.
Just for the listeners too, it's traditionally $500 a treatment, and that, who can do that? I know there's a chunk of the population that I am not one of or related to that can toss that out all the time, but it makes me so happy that we're getting this accessible to people, and not to prioritize any patient over another, but this group of people that we get to treat has been so rewarding, and people like yourself too. And the funny thing about it that I'm also not used to, just because I'm not used to working with most military or vets, they want to like help the next person. Like they almost get like, if it's even like 10% good for them, they feel like it's their freaking duty to go like
Mhm.
put it on a podcast or put it on a billboard or tell every single friend of theirs. And it's been a lot to see. You guys care hard. That's what I see.
Yes. Um, wow. Yeah. I'm almost at a loss for words here because I'm afraid that what I say is going to make me emotional, which is dumb because emotions are stupid. No, I'm kidding on that. Yeah, you know something, people that devote themselves to the service of others, I think, there's a point where empathy leaves and apathy comes in. But when we see something that works and that's helping us, we want to share that because we know what the struggles are. And if you're not in the struggle spot yet, you will be. And if we can do something, at least from my own experience, if I can do something to help you avoid that struggle or that tight spot, or give you information that's going to pull you out of the tight spot that you're in now, it's kind of selfish. I mean, we deserve to live better than what we're living, and holding it in and driving on, it works to a point. But when you can do something as simple as this, I mean, I'm not sponsored by ETMS Florida. I haven't been given a single thing. I would like to think that I got free snacks, but those are paid for by a grant by the state. So, I mean, if anything, I'm spending money on keeping the snacks at my house post-treatment. But, I think it was important to support this and support what y'all are doing. I believe in the mission and what y'all are doing there. The atmosphere, honestly, even after my treatment, if I didn't have to deal with Tampa traffic to get back over there, I would turn that into a coffee spot. I mean, this should be an ETMS alumni hangout meeting. I mean, you got the meeting space there, but no, because it was just a really cool vibe because everybody there cares about what they're doing. It's not a job. And, I saw some people that I knew walking in and out of there. It's like, hey man, they're here too. This is really cool. And, it doesn't hurt. There's no pills. It's non-invasive and it works. And I think the biggest thing for me, and when I try to explain to responders, because we have we have a propensity to overreact. I mean, we're human beings and we have this allostatic load. We're always here, either hypervigilance or not sleeping, whatever the combination of garbage that goes on with the individual person. Ronnie explained it to me this way. You explained it to me this way, that, if you're always on at 9 or 8 on a scale of 10, spilt milk becomes something that turns you, into a blinding rage. But after this, even if they can get you down to a 5 or a 4, that spilt milk is just spilt milk. It's not a big deal. And I have experienced spilt milk opportunities since I started this treatment. And that's exactly what it was. Yeah, it really is cool because, you think, okay, whatever, this thing made a clicking sound on my forehead. It doesn't work, but it does. It worked. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I forgot to mention during the scales, that before you start your treatment, they go over this checklist. How was the sleep last night? Any dreams? What was your sleep score? Because they also give you a watch to check your sleep score now too, which is really cool. I didn't take the watch because I already had my Garmin, but anyway, they said, was there any alcohol or drug use in the last 24 to 48 hours? Remember, get your 8 hours of sleep or as much sleep as you can, in bed by this time, no alcohol, get 45 minutes of sunlight between the hours of 7 and 11 with no windshield or sunglasses. What's that?
You're a good student.
Well, no, well, you hear it over. Yeah, I know. Sunshine. No booze. Got it. I slept good. It was an 82 today, all of the stuff. And, did you get any REM? No REM, but it became a thing. It made me mindful of the things that I should be paying attention to. Mm-hmm. And, Dr. Huberman talks about the grounding and the sunlight, neuroplasticity, all of the things, make sure that your diet is good. Make sure that, you're not self-medicating with whatever it is. Just live a cleaner life. In this treatment, it worked for me. So I'm I'm very gracious that we have the opportunity here, and I'm very grateful for you to take this time today and explain this to my listener that this is what ETMS is doing here.
Yeah, I hope it makes sense. And I'm glad you brought that up about all the things we ask you to do, because we certainly don't act like we're, like a magic fix it pill. Like, you got to have the full comprehensive approach to your health for it to really make sense. Of course, all of those things have their own scientific mapping, and we could spend hours on each one of those things. But yeah, we're not going to act like, oh, just do this and continue to eat Cheetos for every meal throughout the day and get crap sleep and no sunlight. And yeah, you're going to feel amazing. Like, that's just not realistic. So yeah, great call there. Um, I hope I've been
It's a
helpful.
whole body approach. It
It
is.
is,
You've
yeah.
got to treat each individually holistically. And I think that's where I think that's where medicine is missing the spot. You go to a specialist for this, but they're looking at their specialty and not the whole picture. And probably because either they're not aware that there is a whole picture, or maybe because they only have 10 minutes to spend with a
Five
patient.
minutes for most specialties, at least the specialties I still do family med and urgent care, and my brother's a hospitalist, and it's just insane the numbers that we're expected to see. But I will spare everyone my comments on that. But yeah, I hope I know it's a stressful topic, honestly. Anytime you tell somebody about their brain, it can invoke a lot of fear. So I'm just happy to have gotten the opportunity to talk to you about all this stuff today. I really am so fortunate to even be in this spot and get to see these things. Yeah, this job has been life changing for sure. And I do appreciate you wanting to talk about this in general, because I think we've said this before together, that I can sit here and show you fantastic data all day long to every single military personnel, veteran, whatever. They don't care. They need somebody who's been in their shoes. They need somebody they trust. They need a fellow to say, hey, yeah, I did this. It worked for me, man. Like, give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're doing is way more beneficial than anything we could put together on a marketing platform our own selves.
Well, it's important. It'd be selfish of me to hang on to this. I mean, more people need to be exposed to the work y'all are doing. And one question that I probably should have asked, is this like a one-time fix?
Uh,
How effective or how long lasting is this? Because I think that's going to be a question people will ask me after this airs.
sure. No, I mean, of course, there's no one-time fix for anything. If anyone ever tells you that in medicine, you should probably run far, far and fast the other direction. Um, you get it free every single year, no matter what. For Florida, that is the layout right now. Like for Ohio, it's written into state law. This is always available to veterans and first responders every year on the year mark, the whole shebang. We don't go away though after your treatment. So if you need anything in the interim, have questions, comments, concerns, you went and fell off your bike, it's smoked hard on the pavement and are having new issues, we've got help for you. But everyone's really different on how long they notice the benefits. One of my favorite neurotechnicians in particular, he did the treatment about 3 years ago. I only know him to be like the nicest human ever, so much I kind of thought it was BS. I was like, well, yeah, you gotta suck. Like, when we get off this phone call, you're just gonna be mean or something. He's actually like this all the time. I love him so much. Evan, if you're listening, it's you. And he did it about 3 years ago and said it was absolutely life changing. He's around the coil all day long with a bunch of people. I've never had him tell me, hey, I want to re-up on my treatment. But I have other people that want to do it again annually, and why not? The thing is, it's not, you don't have to like have any certain findings or fit in a certain bubble or have this specific diagnosis list for TMS to be helpful for you. I equate it to working out. Like, if you are already in peak physical condition, you're probably still going to need to work out the next day to keep it up. It's just maintenance. It's good brain health. It's a drink of water for the brain. That being said, we're learning a lot on how the brain reacts to serial treatments. My CMO and I were just talking not too long ago that we're finding that people tend to be more responsive on their subsequent TMS treatments at
Wow.
annual follow-ups, because it's like hearing a song again that your brain used to hear. You know, like if you have a song from the 80s that you just freaking love, but you don't hear it for years, and all of a sudden you hear it on the radio, it might be a little patchy, but you can fill that in pretty quickly versus if you were to never hear the song before. So we're finding that it's pretty powerful to get subsequent treatments and roll with it there. But to fully answer your question, it's super variant. Everyone has different things. Most of the time, what I see at the year mark where we have a patient again, they kind of say something vague. Like they seem amazing and they can't see their stuff from the year before, but their scales are already exactly where they left off last time. Their EEGs look
Wow.
on par and they feel amazing. And maybe they say in their head, like, oh, yeah, like maybe the last month or so, I just noticed it maybe went away. And then I'll ask questions like, how's your mood? How's your irritability? How's sleep? How's your energy throughout the day? And they're like, yeah, honestly, it's great. Like, do. And so then they kind of see all of that going forward. And it's been pretty sustainable for most people. No promises though. Everyone's different. And it's important to talk about too. We are not going, I hear this question a lot from especially first responders. They don't want any treatment that is going to make them not alarmed. They think that this is going to change their personality.
I said that to you, and I was actually getting ready to ask that question for clarification.
If your house is on fire, I hope you're screaming and freaking out and running around. If you have something like caustic or traumatic in front of you, that's always going to be a triggering event. We are talking about the pathologies of generalized anxiety disorder, hypervigilance, chronic insomnia from redundant thinking. That is when a stress is no longer just the stress of what happened. It's just the heaviness and this, like the circular chewing it over all the time. Now that is a pathology. That's something we can fix. It's not going to make you not responsive to stressors. Stress and anxiety are two completely different things.
Yeah, I was actually getting ready to ask that question because I remember saying that, and even asking Ronnie and Damien in the clinic. So, look, if people come here and it's going to make them slow to react, they're not going to do this. I'm not going to do this because I would rather feel this than nothing at all. So I'm glad you made the distinction there, because even though you're at 5, you can still go to 10. You can still get there. You're going to have days that you're going to have that, but it's not going to be every day, all day for 10, 20, and 30 years. So yeah, if anything can even take the edge off, and this certainly does, you should really look into it.
And it came up with the conversation of how people do prolonged, because if you have a job where unfortunately you have to deal with a lot of unsavory stuff all day long, I hope you're stressed by the time I see you in a year. You know what I mean? It's just not where it's like it takes over your life and it's ruining your interpersonal relationships and you're not sleeping and you can't go out in public and you're not eating like you should, etc.
Yeah, that's the key. Well, great. Do you have any parting thoughts for us? Anything?
You're freaking awesome. We hit the jackpot with you as one of our first patients. I understand it takes a lot of bravery to even talk to medical providers about some of this stuff. I'm learning every day what the culture is within veterans and military about mental health in itself. And people like you who want to talk about this and do things for themselves really can actually change the world. And I don't mean that to like be cheesy or anything. It carries over, and we see that. We have people come in and say, hey, my buddy so-and-so, I saw it. I saw how he talked with his kids. I saw how he was out and about during the day when he would just camp out in the garage all day. Like, it really matters. So I super appreciate you. We all do. You've been so kind too. Kindness is a dying skill.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that is undeserved, as I feel that it is. But I have to admit that I'm in a very rare position that I'm doing this with relatively no risk. I mean, I'm retired. I don't have to do any of this. I became vocal towards the end of my career, where there was some risk, but not. It's more dangerous for some people, and at least perceived to be dangerous for some people. But I think that we are having people that are emotionally intelligent and who are speaking out, and I'm just one of the voices, and I'm glad to be that voice. I'm very, very grateful to be in the position that I'm in to be able to do this and to have a platform that is getting traction. So yeah, no, thank you so much for that, and thank you for being in medicine for all the right reasons and being aligned with a company that's on a mission. It's great. I think the only thing that we can do for each other is actually for you to do for you and to do for the world. You have to sign up for a triathlon. See, you didn't think I was going to put you on notice for this because I know you said something about it.
I thought it was going to be just us shooting it afterwards. It would come up. God, now you can't put it on.
Nope. And I'm not taking this out. I'm putting the world on notice that Lena Grunloh is going to do a triathlon before this year. In 2025, you are going to do at least a sprint triathlon.
Okay. Sprint. I can do a sprint. All right. Okay. All right.
Now, you said it. I can. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Fine. Let the record show.
You
Right.
You don't look convinced. You don't look convinced. You look a little sheepish.
I mean, I have to now. I have to. I do want to.
Yep.
It'd be fun. So.
You have to, but don't start training. Well, you can start training inside now. Would you say it was 7 degrees there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Oh, that's so stupid.
Oh,
that's
thanks.
dumb.
Man, that makes me feel a lot better. Yeah. All bundled up with your 45-degree weather.
It's chilly. It's chilly.
I don't want to hear about it.
In fact, I might set the fire table up tonight and make a nice hearty soup.
Oh,
enjoy
wow.
the cold,
Yeah.
the 2 days of cold weather that we have here in Central Florida. It's fantastic.
Yeah, don't forget to get out your parka. God.
I don't have any of that stuff. So,
all right, now I really
anyway,
yeah.
So Lena, it has been fantastic to have met you last year, and thank you so much for the work that y'all are doing. And I know people can find you on LinkedIn, and they can find you through ETMS Ohio. I'll put all of those links and stuff in the show notes. And thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
This was fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Tell This Story. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Lena Grunloh and found it as insightful and inspiring as I did. If you'd like to connect with Lena, you can find her on LinkedIn or visit etmsohio.com to learn more about her work. Once again, a huge thank you to Polestar Coffee for sponsoring this episode. Fuel your mission with the best blends. Visit polestarcoffee.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Every rating helps us continue sharing these important stories. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Or just visit my website at dougwhiteofficial.com. We'd love to hear from you. Share your feedback, suggest guests, and tell us about topics you'd like us to cover. Thanks for tuning in to Tell This Story. Remember, there's always a way forward. We'll see you next time.